What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Dylan Talks Tone. Today we are going to talk about buying your first guitar, or maybe your first electric guitar. How about that? How much should you spend? You can go on Amazon and you can buy a guitar that looks pretty much like this, or pretty much like this, or pretty much like this for 150 bucks, 199 bucks, or even less. Like, you can find an electric guitar that is an electric guitar shaped thing for 79 bucks, 100 bucks. I mean, they're very, very inexpensive. But is that the right move, even for a beginner? So we're going to talk about how much should you spend on your first electric guitar. If you're finding my channel for the first time, you're like, what does this guy know about guitars? Well, I've been playing for about 35 years. I grew up in a music store, and I own a company called DylanTalksTone, and we make pickups. We make the electric guitar pickups that go in electric guitars. So I have been making videos on YouTube for about 12 years, 11 years, something like that. We got like 1,500 how-to videos about this kind of stuff. And we really like guitars around here, and we got a bunch of them to kind of try out and give you an idea. We've tried guitars from all price ranges, various lands of manufacture all over the years, and we can kind of give you point you in the right direction. Now, am I going to tell you what to buy exactly? No, and we'll get to why that is in a minute. Am I going to tell you exactly how much to spend? No, because everybody's budget is different. Everybody who says beginner level or budget level or anything is different. We all handle that differently. So I want to point you in the right direction to where you could get what you want to fulfill the purpose for your instrument that you want. The instinct would be, or the move would be, the first thought would be to just go buy the cheapest guitar that you can find that makes sense, because, well, I don't know if I'm really going to be into this. I don't want to invest a bunch of money. I don't want to waste a bunch of money if it's something that I'm not interested. Fair point, and it does make sense. However, there are some pitfalls with thinking that way. If you just go on Amazon, or you go on any of the big e-commerce websites, like the big e-marketplace websites, and you just buy a cheap guitar. Let's say in the price point, anything, well, let's break down price points first. Okay, so we've got somewhere in the, $200 and under. On Amazon, you're gonna have like the 150 and under, but realistically, anything $200 and under is gonna be a very inexpensive guitar, almost certainly manufactured in China, if that matters to you. Then you will have maybe from the $200 to about $500 or $600 range. They'll still be import guitars. Some of them will come from China, some of them will come from other parts of Asia like Indonesia and stuff, and they will be sort of your mid-range, low-priced guitar. Okay, so you're gonna have your very low-priced guitar, then you're gonna have your mid-range low-priced guitar, and then you're gonna have your upper-end mid-range, your upper-end low-priced guitar. That sounds funny to say, but from anywhere from about $600 to about $1,100 or so. And $600 to $1,100 is going to be a probably an import instrument. Many of them come from Indonesia, Korea, Japan, those places like that. And then above that, then you're going to start getting into sort of your staple American brands that you may be familiar with when you see an electric guitar. So when we look at this Gibson Les Paul, when we look at this Fender Stratocaster, when we look at this Fender Telecaster, the American-made versions of those guitars, like the kind of the original, sort of the real thing, those are going to start, the Fenders are going to start in the $1,400 to $1,500 to $1,600 range, depending on which model you pick. And then the Les Paul American versions are going to start in the $1,500 to $1,700 range, and then they're going to go up from there. So that kind of gives you the idea. So you're going to have sort of what we all know and love and see our rock star idols playing. It's going to start at about $1,400 and go up. Then we're going to have the high, low-priced guitar, anywhere below that, down to about $600. Then we're going to have that mid-range, low-priced guitar from $600 to about I would say literally, honestly, I would say about 300 because of where we are in economy, and then 300 and below, honestly, instead of 200 and below. So what are you getting for those very inexpensive guitar prices at $300, $200, Amazon money and below? If you are a new guitar player and you're not buying a guitar just to experiment and like tinker with and take apart and put back together, anything in that $200 range and below, especially if you buy it on Amazon, and it is not a recognizable brand name, I would personally consider that to be sort of in the toy range, in the where you're not, it is a guitar, it looks like a guitar, but it might not get you the full functionality that you might expect when you see somebody playing an electric guitar, okay? And this is because they're trying to build the guitar to a price point. They're not building the guitar for the sake of the craft. They're not building the guitar for the sake of it being a quality musical instrument. What they're trying to do is put a guitar in someone's hands at a price point. And what can happen is you can end up with a bunch of different compromises at that $300 to $100 and below. And here's a couple of things that you will find. One, you will find that the construction of the instrument can be a little bit suspect. The wood, while the wood is not totally influential to the guitar itself, we can get into that in another video, but really, those really inexpensive guitars, you don't even know where it comes from. It might not be 100% straight. It might not be 100% dried out, down to spec to be able to build a guitar out of. Thus, when you bring it outside on your back porch versus inside and the humidity changes and various things like that, it won't stay in tune very well. The other thing is the fit and finish. These frets, for a beginner, these frets need to be in exactly the right place. They need to be flat. They need to be milled in a certain way. And you might have buzzes and various things that can't be easily repaired by a beginner guitar player. The other thing is the tuning keys up here. Of course, they have to work to stay in tune. Otherwise, you're going to sound like crap. And if they don't, you're going to sound like crap. It's going to be very frustrating. The other thing is, on a lot of those very inexpensive guitars, the electronics may not be reliable. Switch and the volume pots being the most suspect. A lot of times they will end up being very unreliable. Maybe they will work for a few months and then they will not work anymore. And so sometimes that can happen. So those are a few things at the very inexpensive price point that for a beginner guitar player, they kind of steer me. And a lot of folks on the internet will say, well, just go buy this guitar I've had 15 of these and they're amazing. But for a very beginner guitar player who does not want to tinker, he just wants to learn, I would avoid that because tinkering might not be the best way to get you into actually playing guitar. For the tinkering guy, for the guy who wants to fiddle and mod and play with stuff and learn things, then maybe, in my opinion, I would avoid anything below that $200 to $300 range. All right, so let's talk about the $300 to $600 range. This is going to get you in a guitar that looks very much and functions very much like the legendary instruments that you know and love. You could get into a Fender Telecaster, for example. The import version being their Squire line, the Classic Vibe, is my favorite because it's vintage spec, so it feels just like the guitar that the rock stars play, but because of the finishes they use, the electronics they use, and because of some of the materials they use, they're able, and where it's made, they're able to keep the cost down to that, $500 to $600 range, and it gives you an excellent instrument. I love Classic Vibe, Squire, Strats and Tellies, and the various other guitars from that line. I'll leave a link to them in the description. If you use those links, it'll help the channel out, but you don't have to. I just want to give you an idea of kind of where to look and what to look for with these things, because whoops, sorry, my dog kicked the camera. Because there's a bunch of different guitars to look at. Now, within those things, so Fender has probably 50 different models of these two guitars. Which one should you pick? Doesn't really matter. Honestly, if you go and get a classic vibe guitar in that $300 to $600 range, or you get one of the, well, we'll talk about Epiphone in a minute for the Gibson side. But if you're looking in that $300 to $600 range, especially for a Fender licensed product through Squier, honestly, it doesn't matter. They're all fantastic. They're going to have different eras of time that they use, 50s, 60s, 70s, things like that. This is where this gets into your inspiration, okay? This is where this gets into why are you playing guitar? Because I saw X or Y artist and this is what he played. Well, what did he play? He played a 1965 something something. Okay, well, let me get a 60s inspired Squier Telly. Let me get a 70s inspired Stratocaster. Let me get, and then what color do you want, right? Whatever inspired you to play at that moment. Don't be a spec chaser at this point. There's too many things to worry about. It's too confusing, and you'll just dive down in a rabbit hole that will get you far away from wanting to play guitar. So just find the shape, find the color, and find the general specification, maybe down to the decade that you want. If your idol played a 50s guitar, buy the 50s version, or the 60s version, or the 70s version, and then just pick a color. Honestly, especially for an entry level kind of thing like this, where you're trying, an entry point, I mean, where you're trying to get into guitar, that's what I would do. Now, when we get into the $700, $800, $900 range, this is where you're going to get into a really premium import guitar. They're going to be fantastic. This is where we get into the Paul Reed Smith SE line. This is where we get into the made in Mexico versions of the Stratocaster and the Telecaster. This is where we get into the Epiphone Les Paul, which honestly will look exactly like a Les Paul, but it'll just be made in China instead. The finish will be a little different. Obviously, the construction is different. The quality of the parts is different. This is an American one. You know, the nickel, the pickups, everything on an American one is completely different. It comes from a different place. It's all made differently. But if you want that vibe of Slash, for example, so this is an American Slash November Burst Les Paul. You can get I don't know if you can get a November Burst, but you can get a Slash inspired Les Paul from Epiphone. A lot less expensive, you know, in that $600, $700, $800, $900 range. It'll still be an import guitar. It will be very high quality. It will have great sounding pickups for the price point. It will have very reliable hardware for the price point. You might want to change it in the future, but it doesn't matter. You will get into a guitar that you really enjoy. The same thing on the Fender side. The made in Mexico stuff is basically made a couple hours from where the American stuff is made. A lot of the wood is sourced from the same place. Some of the pickups, depending on the model, kind of cross over between the American ones and the Mexican ones. So there's a lot of kind of leeway there, depending on what's important to you. You get a very, very good guitar. On the Paul Reed Smith side of things, you get a fantastic instrument for about $800. And then there's a bunch of other brands in that price point that you would be very, very, you'd be remiss if you didn't look into them. So things like Kramer, things like ESP, things like Yamaha, things like, there's just so many. Schecter. There's a lot of different brands of guitar in that $600, $700, $800, $900 price point. They'll probably be made in Indonesia most of the time. Some of them will be made in China, but they'll be made in factories. In that price point, here's the difference. In that price point, the mother company, so Fender, Gibson, PRS, etc., has a lot more voice in how the guitar is made. The very inexpensive guitars, they don't. They're really just building them to a price point, and they're just picking whatever parts they can to hit that price point. But in that $500, $600, $700, $800 price point, they're building a guitar a little bit more to spec. Like it's working. It's a better relationship between those companies, if that makes sense. So you do get a better product. There is more quality control involved. It's very, very good. So, and in that price point, you get an instrument. Here's what I would say. If you spent $500, $600, $700, $800 and you got a good import version of your favorite, so a Mexican one of these, an Epiphone one of these, a Mexican one of these, a PRS Silver Sky SE, a PRS, any of the SE line for any of their stuff, that would be a guitar that you would keep forever. Here's the thing. One of the things that we've not talked about yet, and when people want to price chase on the internet, they never talk about, and I think it's so important, and that is inspiration and pride of ownership. It is my opinion. This is just my opinion. This whole thing's been my opinion. This is my opinion. I think it's a very important one, that you should never sell your first electric guitar. I think you should always keep it, because it gives you a reference for your progress, your history, your journey of playing electric guitar. I think you should always keep your first one. I have my first one, and it is an import Stratocaster from 1985. I will keep it forever. I will never never get rid of it. And I think you should do that. The other thing is pride of ownership. When you play guitar with your friends, not that you're showing off, not that this matters, but internally to you, even at home, playing by yourself with nobody around, are you truly proud of what you're doing? Are you inspired and proud of playing guitar? The instrument itself and what you have in your hands can have a lot to do with that. And I think people price shop over inspire, right? I think they choose price over inspiration, and I think that's a mistake. So if you have to save up for a few more months, you have to, make it happen a little bit, but you get a really nice guitar that you're proud of owning, that you're proud of playing, then you will play more, you will be inspired by it, and you will love to play guitar a lot more, and it will be a guitar that you will love to own forever. Your entry point guitar into playing electric guitar will be a guitar that you'll be proud of. Can you be proud of a $200 guitar? Yeah, maybe. Especially if you learn to do modifications with it and you use it, and this is the first time I soldered my own pickups in and that kind of stuff. Of course, if you learn to, do lots of things and it's the beginning of a journey, absolutely. But I think the higher quality instrument that you get, you'll be more proud of it, you'll be inspired to play it, and it will keep you playing longer. Remember that 60% of people that quit in the first year. It's not just about tech specs, right? It's not just about where it comes from. It's not just about wood. It's not just about strings. It's not just about pickups. It's not about any of that. It's what inspires you to play the instrument. I brought these 3 guitars today to show you because these are 3 of my favorite instruments that I own. And they are different price points, okay? So this is a made in Mexico guitar. But this is a Mike McCready Stratocaster, and this is my favorite Stratocaster that I own, even though it's a made in Mexico import, because it inspires me to play. I love playing this guitar. This is a Fender Telecaster for various different reasons. This is not an inexpensive guitar. I think these are about $3,200 or so. But this was kind of a grail for me that I wanted to have. This is a Slash November Burst Les Paul. I don't play this guitar as much, but I love it. I absolutely love it. I am so inspired by this guitar. This guitar has helped me produce new products. It's helped me I share it with others when they come over. Like, I want people to enjoy playing guitar. So that's one of the reasons why I have it. Those kind of things matter. People don't think about that stuff enough. You have to think about the inspiration, not just the cost. Because what will happen is, if you think about the inspiration, then think about the cost, you'll spend less money in the long run. Here's what I would say. Synopsis. Spend as much money as you can reasonably afford on the nicest guitar that you can reasonably afford, even for a beginner guitar. Even for an entry into this hobby. There will be people in the comments who say, well, I'm not good enough to own a guitar that costs that much. There will be other people in the comments who say, you're not good enough to own a guitar that costs that much. You shouldn't waste your money on X or Y. You should just buy this $300 thing. You should just buy. Don't listen to any of them. And don't listen to yourself. Literally, invest in yourself. This is a lifelong hobby. Think about this too. Let's say your very first guitar you're in the position to buy. This Les Paul, 3,200 bucks. And you have it for 20 years because it's the one. Now how much does it cost? It doesn't. You've used this guitar for 20 years and now it's part of your family. It's, you know what I mean? Like, you are completely inspired by it. Think about that when you think about how much you're gonna spend on a guitar that you're probably gonna keep forever. I'll leave a few of these linked in the description below. If you use those links, it helps out the channel. Make sure you go and check out Dylan Talks Tone. And most importantly, if you have bought your first guitar already, get in the comments and share your experience. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to talk people out of anything. We just want to share our experience. Don't buy this, don't buy that. Don't do that. Just get in the comments and share your experience. What did you buy? Okay, maybe share some mistakes you made. Did you buy a cheap guitar and decide, I should have got a better one? Did you, who knows what? Just share those experiences in the comments. Please do me a favor. Like and subscribe and do all the things that you do when you watch a YouTube video. We will be around later this week with more videos about guitar stuff. And if you're new to the channel, like I said, we have a lot of different stuff that I think you'll like about guitars. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you in the next one.